All right. I can't, you can't, but James McCann signed a major league deal with the New York Mets because both of us are not major league approved to play baseball. But James McCann is. He plays catcher. He just finalized a 4-year contract worth $40 million plus with the New York Mets, coming over from the Chicago White Sox after playing some time in Detroit before that. That's sort of like, I guess, the big baseball news for now.
Yeah,
And then Dombrowski going to the Phillies, but we'll talk about that later.
yeah, it's still a long way. None of the big top free agents are signed. Trevor Bauer and DJ LeMahieu are still not sure where they're going.
And Real Muto as well.
Yeah, but well, now we know a place he isn't going.
Yeah.
This they say it's finally going to start moving the market a little bit, at least Real Muto's market, because now with McCann off the board, he was basically the second tier along with Yadier Molina, who knows where he's signing, and Molina is also, unlike McCann, is a clear downgrade from what from Real Muto's talent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Molina definitely can still do the pitch framing and stuff, or if he's not as crisp, he could definitely give, like, say, Gary Sanchez some pointers.
Yeah, but you're not going to give
no, you're not. He'd command like $15-20 million or whatever.
Yeah,
crazy that the Yankees don't need to be spending on right now.
Yeah. As for McCann to the Mets, this is probably where they should have gone all along. That everyone was saying that they'd open the bank for JT Realmuto. This gives them a star catcher for $10 million a year, which, considering they said that they were only going to spend up to the luxury line, gives them enough room to sign one of, or even two of the other top free agents. George Springer makes sense, solidify that outfield. Trevor Bauer, make a big two-headed monster at the front of that rotation. This gives them the flexibility to do what they need to broadly fill out that Mets roster.
Yeah, the Mets are definitely looking to splurge a bit. My uncle in South Carolina, I was talking with my aunt, and he's like, let me talk to Joe. And my Aunt Michelle puts my Uncle Dave on, and he's like, Mets are going to buy everybody. I'm like, I kind of want to see that. We haven't really seen, well, I guess the Red Sox bought a World Series a couple of years ago, but that was more through like a lot of trading and whatnot. I kind of want to see the Mets go out and just buy a World Series. I think it would be hilarious.
Yeah. Technically, I think the last time a team has bought the World Series, it has been the Yankees.
Yeah,
2009.
that was yep. And money well spent.
Yep.
Even though it only really gave us one good year of A.J. Burnett. But
you could also argue the Dodgers did, but it took them several years to see that realized.
Yeah, it wasn't like an immediate 1-year turnaround.
Partly because of forces beyond their control.
What are you trying to like bang around here on?
We'll trash this segment.
Alright. That one just shot up in the air and failed like the, what was it, the Tesla? Not Tesla. SpaceX? SpaceX?
Oh yeah, that. Virgin Galactic also had a issue too, but that's two space bros. We've never done this before. This is uncharted territory.
We're expanding like MatPat now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Food theory.
So the Mets making, I guess, the first big splash, medium splash of the offseason. I mean, you could also, like I sort of alluded to with Dombrowski going to Philly. I mean, I don't know how super important that is.
It is very important because the Phillies have operated through much of this past few months without a general manager, which means for free agents, they're like, all right, who do we talk to? Who are we talking to for signing and stuff? Now the Mets are operating into the same things, and they still don't have a GM. But at the same time, Steve Cohen's like, I'll just write a check out. I have people who I want. But for the Phillies, who do not have $15 billion to spend,
They do not.
this is a big thing. And most importantly, Dombrowski is someone that comes with a very big pedigree. That he's built two World Series winning teams, the aforementioned Red Sox and the '97 Marlins, and he got a World Series to the World Series for a third time with the Tigers. And also, as I mentioned, that not only did he give Florida a World Series, he also gave them a team. He started with them after a brief run with the
Expos.
the Expos from their inception until 2001. So, right up until the Jeffrey Loria era.
Yeah. So.
And he's also Dombrowski also has a certain reputation for not just betting the farm, but for wrecking the farm. That yes, he's gotten the World Series, but every team he's left, more or less, the farm system, once it's in win mode, is not the greatest.
I mean, that's something we've always sort of talked about, where you have a team that contends every year, or do you do everything and then you suck for a couple of years, which is sort of like how the Red Sox have been operating the last decade and a half.
Through a succession of GMs.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've got, what, 3-4 World Series in the meantime?
And 3 or 4 top 10 draft picks in that time as well.
So it's sort of like, do you want that World Series, and at what cost does it come at? I mean, the guy who does one of the pickups for one of the customers at work, he's a Steelers fan, and he's always like, Steelers, great organization, but it comes with like 12 heart attacks a game. You get that consistency, but at what price does it come? So I guess it'll be interesting to see how he'll work with Girardi and who they bring along, because the Phillies have a decent team. It's just a matter of, I guess, putting them together.
Well, he has a clear mandate from the top, and that is fix that bullpen. The bullpen, which was 14th in National League ERA with a 5.14 mark, which for a team that was contending up until the last day is horrific. Downright horrific. I think the Nationals, I'm not sure who the 15th team is, probably the Nationals or something. But to have a team ERA of 5.14, and most of that dragged down by the bullpen. Their starting pitching was still very good with Nola, Wheeler, Zach Eflin fronting it. And they have the hitting core outside of Real Muto and Didi Gregorius, who are going to be free agents. That is an enviable group. You have Alec Baum. You have healthy Andrew McCutchen.
Still got Harper.
Yeah, you have Harper, Rhys Hoskins, Gene Segura.
So you've got a good team. It's just a matter of keeping it together. And I mean, it seems to be everyone's problem with the bullpen. I mean, that's what sort of killed the Mets in, 2015. It was their bullpen, Yankees bullpen failing them.
But the problems for the Phillies have been a lot more acute than that. That the last few teams, the last few seasons, they've been runners-up, and a lot of it has been by that. If you look, 2019, their team ERA was only ranked 11th. They finished 81 and 81. In 2018, you have the same situation, 11th place ERA. So that bullpen, while they've vastly overhauled the lineup and the starting pitching, the bullpen has been an afterthought, and it's shown in the last couple seasons.
I mean, pitching wins you your championships, but also, I guess, key hitting as well helps. Especially if the National League decides to keep the DH, which actually Kershaw is in favor for.
Yeah. As of now, the commissioner's office has said operate under the assumption that there will not be a DH, which speaks to a broader problem that we've talked about since the Astros, since even before the Astros scandal, that the players are not happy with the current the rules in Major League Baseball. They were not happy with the collective bargaining agreement that Tony Clark helped them get, which gave them comforts, but also sacrificed bargaining power for actual labor issues. They weren't happy with how the Astros were punished, or lack of punishment in their minds, by getting a slap on the wrist. And then it just boiled over this past summer when they were trying to start start baseball, but take a steep pay cut when, in their minds, the owners weren't taking that much of a sacrifice. And this is all coming ahead of, we've been saying this for so long, the collective bargaining agreement is up after the 2021 season. So that's when the DH will be permanently instituted by all accounts, but it is also where we have a very real chance at the first lockout since 1994.
Yeah, and that's not going to be good for some of these up-and-coming young teams that are looking to make a good outbreak. We see a good Braves team, so it just sort of stunts some players. I mean, you lose some time with, say, Mike Trout. He lost some years. I mean, that affects any home run races you're trying to get.
It's also not just that; it affects the sport as a whole. That any labor lockout, baseball proved that in the '80s and '90s, that permanently scars and damages the sport.
Yeah.
Football, probably not. It's so big that a dip doesn't matter to it. But NHL had it when it was coming right on the heels of MLB strike, and they were poised to leap in front, and then they lost an entire year to a strike, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Yeah, that they right in the exact same year, the entire season was shortened to just 48 games, in a point where they could have capitalized on the fact there was no World Series, and they could have taken up the mantle and the place and permanently solidified themselves over baseball potentially, but because of that, they didn't. And they remain the fourth team in the Big Four.
Yeah, so it's we don't want to see baseball get sort of skipped over. I mean, 60 games wasn't enough for me this year.
No,
it wasn't. I mean, if I was doing fantasy baseball, 60 games would have been more than enough, because you got to change that lineup daily. But that's why I don't do that anymore, because it's too much stress. But I didn't get to see enough of baseball that I wanted. And actually, coming up this year, I think I've talked about it before, I don't even know how I'm going to watch my Yankee games, because my family cut the cord, and now it's just sort of oh, well, Yes Network doesn't play sports anywhere, and then you have all the blackout dates.
Yeah. So I was about to say that's what MLB.TV is, but they're blacked out as well.
Yep. Yeah, so we got to use NordVPN, not sponsored. But yeah, so anyway, just to talk, I guess to sort of flip it a little bit more about possible flipping things around, is the NHL seems to possibly have a new sort of format that might be going on here. I believe it is on the 13th they're looking to get stuff done. January 13th. Yeah, 13th with a 52 or 56 game schedule. But they'd have to realign everything. And unlike the other major sport, well, the NFL doesn't have any Canadian teams. But the NBA and MLB each have a Canadian team. But the NHL, they have lots of Canadian teams. And they're looking to sort of redo these divisions. That way the Canadian teams can do their own thing, and I guess when the playoffs happen, they can bubble it again. But it would look like the Canadian division, East Division, Central Division, and West Division. I'm not going to go through all of them, just because there's so many names. But the East Division mostly looks like it's basically the Metropolitan Division, with just sort of the addition of the Bruins. Everybody else is pretty much the same there. So it's going to make for a tough season if we can get this going on. But I still don't know how they're going to get that, because hockey's got the hardest hurdles to do, because everyone's got to come on in, be tested, stay away from 2 weeks, because they're coming from all different countries: Russia, Sweden, Finland, everywhere, Canada. So these players are just coming from all over, and they got to be tested, and then they got to get into shape. Because unlike basketball or baseball, where you could just like lift weights and sort of just run in place and whatnot, you can't do that because you don't have an ice rink in your house, unless I guess you're that rich. But hockey players don't really make that much money to sort of have their own ice rink in their house, let alone if they're coming from abroad. So they're really crunching time on this. I mean, as of recording, it's the 12th of December right now, so that's in a month. So it means they got to like hammer this out now, have the players start coming over in like 2 days so they can quarantine, and then they've got like a week to get ready, a week and a half.
Yeah,
so it's still not looking good.
No.
But at least they're talking, because there were talks about going back on the updated CBA or whatever they amended right before they went back to play. So there's like some tit for tat, but it's still really murky and unclear.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you, what's going to happen first? The NHL knowing what they're going to do, or a big MLB free agent signing going to happen first?
Well, first I will preface that all this was saying this is what we were starting to talk about last week, that the same problems that stalled out Major League Baseball this summer are now manifesting themselves in the NHL. Except it's just as bad because the NHL players get paid even less on average, so they have much more to risk per percent that they lose. Now, as to how it is, the only guy who I can really see signing before the end of the year is DJ LeMahieu, and I see that as like next week thing. So yeah, I could totally see DJ LeMahieu signing before we figure out what is going on in the NHL. Now, it would probably be close. Like LeMahieu signs, and the next day they approve a season. But it is concerning. As I said, it's looking. We already know New Year's is out of the question at this point, and it looks like the 14th, the 13th, 14th is out. At this rate, February might be when they start if they don't hurry up and get this started. That as I said with baseball, the more they talk, the more clean air that gives the your opponent, which in this case is the NBA. No one's watching football that would rather watch the NHL.
Yeah.
So You're giving basketball clean air to run in by themselves, and you do not give basketball clean air. They don't need any help.
No, they've got
marketing
so many
themselves.
different prima donnas and divas over there. I mean, I think we talked about it last week with, I think it was John Wall, Russell Westbrook sort of trade. But it still looks like James Harden isn't reporting to the Houston Rockets, and he's sort of opened up like who he would like to go to. Obviously, his first destination is the Nets. Apparently, he's open to the 76ers, the Milwaukee Bucks, and I'm forgetting what other team. And honestly, as a Celtics fan, I don't want him to go to the Nets or the 76ers.
Why not?
Because they're in the same division.
Yes. Good old Celtics.
So, I'm not looking forward to that at all. Because the Nets are going to have Kyrie and Kevin Durant. We do have to say, though, Kevin Durant might not be the same player he was before his injury. He's coming off an Achilles tendon injury. And some major calf injuries. Although if you look at Kevin Durant, he has no calves, so he's got those like skinny chopstick legs. So I don't know how he has calf muscles. It sort of perplexes me.
Well, the good news for you with the Nets is that according to Shams, I'm going to butcher this badly. Shams Carolina. I'm not even gonna. Shams of the Athletic. Shams of the Athletic. That's what we'll go with.
All right.
According to Shams, that the Rockets have no interest in sending Harden to Brooklyn unless they get either Kevin Durant or Kyle Irving back. So that might put the kibosh, or at least cool a deal, because that's a rather steep price to pay for someone who, thanks to the Rockets, is a bit of a basket case.
Yeah,
with this saga that he's picking a fight over the political views, part largely of the owner, which
you're gonna have that everywhere.
You're gonna have that everywhere, and B, it's not even. He's also has had issues with certain teammates not gelling well with him. Mm-hmm. So it's not like this. It's not like you're trading for, say, Nolan Arenado or a Tom Brady, where you're like, oh, okay, they'll fit in anywhere.
Yeah,
that's not exactly the case with Harden. Also, to answer your question, the other team was the Miami Heat.
The Heat, yes. Yeah, so it's I'm not really sure where he's gonna land. I don't think it's gonna be the Nets, because as you said, they're gonna want something substantial. I mean, he's a former MVP, probably one of the top 10 players in the league. Some would argue top 5. That really depends year to year. And we've got some like young up and coming guys who are like starting to be really good. Luka's doing good. Tatum's doing good. Giannis is now, I think, back-to-back MVP. So there's lots of guys up there who are doing really good. Another good player, Paul George. He just signed a 4-year extension at $190 million. So he's going to be getting $226 million over the next 5 years from the Clippers. So I think him and Kawhi are looking to sort of solidify and be like, hey, we goofed in the playoffs, we stopped caring, but you know what? We're going to mean business right now. So just sad it costed Doc Rivers his job. And he's on the rival team now, I think the Philadelphia 76ers. Because he was the former Celtics head coach that I liked as I was starting to watch basketball.
And Pete, speaking of the Sixers, I honestly would not want to see them go after Harden, because the last several years the Sixers have kind of been in that limbo state of,
well,
right,
that's
the thing. We're not good enough to contend, but we're not good enough at rebuild. And they always say, all right, we're going to rebuild, and all right, we're going to contend. And they've gone back and forth. James Harden is an opportunistic buy. This was not something that they could plan out. This is basically the tempting Apple saying, "Oh, wouldn't your fruit basket look a lot better like me? But your basket's already full. You have to move some people out." The Sixers, they need a plan. They need to stick to that plan. Because going for Harden will just once again make the team top heavy.
Yes.
And they will go contend, and they will get kicked early out again in the first or second round of the playoffs and be like, why did we do this? We have all these problems and we added to them by just getting Harden.
Well, I think the solution, though, actually, for the 76ers, because there's been sort of talks that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid don't quite get along, and there's talks that Simmons is a decent defender, but his shooting isn't very good. Simmons could be a good trade chip. And you maybe package some other guys with them, maybe Seth Curry, Dwight Howard, maybe. He's at the tail end of his career, but he's a big man. Although he just sort of signed, so I don't know how much you're gonna trade him after that. But and I think Ben Simmons is probably your best trade chip, because Simmons definitely can't do 3-pointers. Harden is a 3-point shooter, so. That sort of solves the Ben Simmons sort of problem, and that gets rid of that. And then you can just work with Embiid.
Well, at the same time, Doc Rivers has made it clear in private that he wants to try to make Simmons and Embiid work, and they've added Seth Curry and Danny Green around them. So the assumption is they're going to at least give it one more try.
They want to, but I think if they really want to surprise people and try and go for it, I think they pull the trigger on this, because I just don't think Simmons and Embiid are going to work. They can force it for this 1 year, but I don't think it's going to last enough. I say you just sell Simmons and take on Harden and go all the way. That's just me. Whether that actually works and how the salaries and everything, but because the Miami Heat are just coming off a finals appearance. They've got a really good core of a bunch of guys that just gel together. Next man up decides to take on the leading role that game, like the Celtics should, but they sort of don't do it as well as Miami, as we saw in the playoffs.
Right.
So I don't think Miami wants to sell anybody. The Nets aren't going to give away Irving or Durant. The Milwaukee Bucks, I mean, they have Giannis. They got a couple other guys, Brook Lopez and whatnot. Kyle Korver is towards the end of his career there. But there's still talk of whether Giannis is going to come back or not. So it's sort of, do you trade everything away and hope Giannis comes back, or do you sort of more... I honestly think the 76ers have the best shot, at least from what I'm looking at. I think Ben Simmons is the best trade chip out there. And he's got a big enough contract to help offset some of that money, because basketball's weird.
All sports are weird.
Yeah, but how trading works in the NBA and contracts is just a super crazy...
Again, this is why I like baseball. Your contract is what your contract is, and that's it. There's no...
Yep.
There's no, oh, but if this happens, your contract is now this.
Yeah, the NBA is like Verizon.
Yeah.
There's so many caveats.
Yes. Speaking of caveats, how about the Steelers and their perfect record being broken by a lack of off days?
Yeah.
Although that last game, that loss was not because they were tired.
No.
That was them just falling apart.
Yeah, Tomlin said they played like a JV team. It just was not good at all. First off, did you see any of the highlights of the game at all?
Yes, I did, actually.
So, did you see what happened right before halftime?
Remind me again.
So, Steelers didn't have possession of the ball. The Washington football team had possession of the ball. They were going down. No timeouts left. Clock is winding down. You're down to like 12 seconds. They snap the ball. They can't get to anything. 8 seconds to go. Alex Smith grabs the ball and runs off the field. They don't have any timeout. They're not gonna. He takes the ball, which means there's no ball in the field to set up real quick, throw the kicker out there, and kick the football for a field goal. So what happens is somehow by Alex Smith stealing the football and going to the sidelines, that institutes a referee timeout, which then lets them stop the clock and kick the field goal. But then after they did that, there was still 1 second left on the clock, so they were able to like squib it or whatever, which really didn't accomplish anything. But during that first half, the Steelers were up 14-0, and I was like, oh, they're getting some calls going their way. That never happens.
Yeah, and then
it should have been like, oh, yeah, that's a little too good. Things are gonna go to crap from here, and that's sort of what happened. There were some questionable calls. I mean, both sides. But that happens in every game. But that was just uncalled for. That sort of gives them a little bit of momentum. They're getting the ball back at the end of the beginning of the game, at the beginning of the second half. So that just sort of like set them up there. But then the Steelers just like they had no running game. They couldn't score on 4th and goal. They had 6 tries and they couldn't do that because of a penalty. Then they tried on 4th down again later in the game and they couldn't do that. I mean, they got a couple points out of it because they sort of pinned them over there, and they were able to get the touchdown right after that first time when they failed the 4th and goal. But it just was a disgrace of a game. It's like they showed up there, but like I guess lose now, win the Super Bowl later. But honestly, watching that game, they don't have a good running game. They couldn't stop that short pass. I mean, Alex Smith has been in the NFL since 2005. Granted, he hasn't played the last 2 years because of a gruesome leg injury that required, 15 surgeries or something.
Yeah.
But even as a kid, I knew all he did was these short little passes, and that's all he did all game. I think it was number 83 or something. He just kept throwing these little slant short passes to his right, and this guy was gaining 15 yards each play. Can you get a 12-year-old kid playing Madden to start calling some of these plays on defense here?
I mean, at least good for Alex Smith for not having to sacrifice a quarterback to get a win this time, with the Bengals.
Yeah,
and also this wasn't the most disgraceful game of Week 13. That goes to the Chargers, putting a goose egg up against the Patriots.
Yeah, and then the Patriots just put up a goose egg on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, but the Chargers had a literal goose egg. Yeah, it's very rare to see a shutout in the NFL.
Yeah, but especially that high scoring of a shutout.
Yeah, 45-9. But going back to the Steelers, at least they got it out now, because I had a feeling that if it wasn't that their first loss would have actually come next week against the Bills. That was shaping out to be probably the toughest game left on the schedule for them.
They have the Bills. They have that Sunday.
They have the Bengals.
Who are without their star quarterback, so they should definitely win that game.
Yeah,
the Colts have been flip-floppy all season, and then they have the Browns, who I still don't think they're that good, but they've been rolling as of late, especially without OBJ, and people are really pointing it out. Maybe it's better for them to just trade OBJ, and there's a lot of it to do with star players in the NFL. As much as the NBA has a lot of prima donnas and whatnot, the NFL isn't short on any of that either.
No.
And OBJ is definitely one of them. But there's some star players out there where you can build a team around them. You want to be around them, like T.J. Watt on the Steelers, a defensive end or linebacker, or whatever he is, a defensive player. You can build a team around him. But OBJ, he's just like a black hole. He just like sucks up all the attention, and the media, and the drama, and it just like all comes to him instead of like sort of spreading it around and being like a warm ray of sunshine. He's just like this. It's disgraceful. It's disgusting. And he should be ashamed of himself. I mean, he went to, I forget which college it was, and he was like throwing out money at the players. Like, you can't do that for whatever stupid reason. College football doesn't let you pay. But whatever, different conversation. But like, he should know better, and he probably does. But he's too much of an idiot to figure it out and stop himself. So it's just not good. So the Browns are probably better off getting rid of him in the off season and even selling low, even for like a 3rd or 4th round pick for him. Take what you can get. You're better off without him. So yeah, the Steelers are the 2 biggest games left of the season: Bills, Browns. And with the Bills, because of sort of having to play all these games and be on short rest and whatnot, they're actually not going to leave until Sunday morning for the games, because they have the Sunday night game. That way they have sort of all the Saturday to sort of prepare and everything. The Jets, on the other hand, they're still perfectly defeated after having a bit of a scare. The defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, was fired for sending out 8-9 guys on a blitz on a Hail Mary instead of, sort of having like a zone sort of defense, but he went with one man-to-man on a guy who's really, really fast, and that burned him. So I don't know. And then the kicker on that, they did like a short little squib kick that went like 10 yards, and then they gave the Jets half field to throw a Hail Mary of their own, and they almost got that. So I was like, I don't know which team was trying to lose more. I don't know. But yeah, so the NFL, it's too stressful right now.
Yeah,
and I got the hiccups.
Yeah. So while you deal with the hiccups, I will tell you the playoff picture, in which we now have 2 teams that have officially clinched their spots. Over in the AFC, the Chiefs have punched their ticket in the West, and in the NFC, the Saints have the best record in that what is it, conference? The NFC they have the best record. They have the best record in the NFC, and they have their spot in the South Division.
Yeah.
Going into the hunt, in the NFC, the biggest change is thanks to their win. The Washington football team keeps pace with the Giants, although the Giants hold the tiebreaker over them. So
even though they're a -34 and Washington's a +4.
Yeah, it's that all-important tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Especially because it's not like any other divisions that if you don't get in, you're not getting in on a wild card.
Yeah. The tiebreaker is that the Giants beat Washington twice, so they could be tied, and the Giants are going to win this. It's not like, oh well, if this team does this or that team, like the Giants have the tiebreaker. Just to be clear.
Yeah. The rest of everything is more or less as it is in the NFC. Packers are the number 2. Rams and Giants finish out the top 4. Your wild cards are Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Minnesota, which good for them coming back from a disastrous start to the season.
Yeah.
To be right in the mix of things. And then on the bubble, Cardinals are 6-6. They don't hold the tiebreaker over the Vikings.
Yeah, I don't think the Cardinals are gonna win the division with 4 games to go and being 2 games back. But I mean, the way that division's been running, I guess they can. But losing 3 games in a row isn't gonna help. The Rams are looking to steal this West Division from what looked like Seattle's to run away with this year. But Seattle's been a little costly. Russell Wilson is like the opposite of what he was at the first sort of half of the season.
And their defense is a sieve.
Their defense is like Legion of Boom Who. So it's not looking good. Tampa Bay dropping 2 games now. Saints won 9 in a row. A good 2 or 3 without Drew Brees. So it looks like Taysom Hill might just be the apparent heir.
Yeah, the Bears are now 5-7 after their free fall continues.
Yeah. So it's just typical football. You start off good, and then teams just decide to fall apart.
And
it's just what happens.
Yeah, over in the AFC, obviously we talked about the Steelers. The East is still the Bills, and the Titans are now in control of the South, holding the tiebreaker over the aforementioned Colts. And the AFC is a lot more clearer than the NFC, mainly because of the strength of teams. The worst team that's in a playoff spot is 8-4, with the Titans and the Miami Dolphins, who hold the second wild card. The Browns hold the first, and the Colts hold the third. Looking on the outside in, the Raiders have been inconsistent all year, but they had a bye week.
The Ravens.
Yeah, but the Raiders had their bye week, aka the Jets, and they can get into the playoff hunt this week as they face the Colts and can knock them.
Yeah.
And it can get them. I don't know who holds the tiebreaker over them. I don't follow football that big, but this at least they have a chance to control their destiny next week.
Yeah.
Similar with the Ravens, that they face the Browns.
Yeah, it's going to be a big thing.
Yeah, and then after that, the only other team that could make the playoffs is the Patriots, who are hanging on just because they with that big win, but they're running quickly out of time too.
Yeah.
And they probably have too many games they have to and teams they have to climb over to make the playoffs.
Yeah, the Patriots need too many teams and dominoes to fall in the right spots. I don't think they're gonna really get in, and it's kind of interesting because people were all saying at the beginning of the year, "Oh, who's gonna end up doing better, Tom Brady or Bill Belichick from this split?" And right now, the Buccaneers are at 7-5 with a playoff spot at the moment, but Father Time catches up quick, and it's sort of looked that way with Tom Brady over these last couple weeks. So the Vikings, Cardinals, and might be able to sort of sneak on by Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. The rest of the schedule does favor Tampa Bay. This week they face they face the Vikings, who they've been surging, but also remember where they started this season. They also have a date with the Lions, who everyone knows how that probably will go.
And they got 2 games against the Falcons, which, depending on which team shows up, it could be a really good Falcons team, or it could just be an easy cakewalk.
So it's not as if they have a tough schedule going. So if Tom Brady has a competent performance, that I say they'll win 3 of their last 4 and stay in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's if Father Time doesn't decide to be the wild card.
Yeah, because also you need someone like Arizona or Chicago or the Lions, 49ers, or the football team to get their act together, which is no sure means anyway. So they might get in just on the fact everyone else can't stop tripping over themselves.
Yeah. And the other big major, I guess two things. First one is that Carson Wentz is no longer the starting quarterback for the Eagles. It is Jalen Hurts. So that's a big sort of
hurts.
thing.
That hurts to me.
Yeah, I mean, Carson Wentz got that big payday after doing absolutely nothing but get injured. But he got all the money, and now he sucks. So Hurts has that. McCown's still in the hunt, I guess, for quarterbacks. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to be good enough to surmount 2 games to overcome, but who knows how the NFC East works. And then sort of the second big thing is the Carolina Panthers are expected to hand out fines to some of their football players who broke COVID-19 procedures over their bye week. So they placed 8 players on the reserve list. Basically, the players gathered outside the team facility when they were basically told, you're not supposed to because we're trying to not kill everybody. But, divas.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to look like the NFL's going to come down on them as well. But the Panthers are making them pay a whole $10,000.
You're asking them to come on down. We saw with the Titans what that looked like. That is not coming down on anyone.
Yeah, so it's sort of whatever. It's chump change for some of these players.
Yeah, honestly, for all the flack they got, baseball's been a lot more harsh on that. Mainly because they didn't have to get anyone involved. That the teams kind of handed out their discipline.
Yeah.
Especially the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah.
Just saying what the team should do, which is not just fine them, but basically deny them the team.
Yeah, and then ship them off.
Yeah, ship one of them off. The other
and then
one
he gets Tommy John surgery. Karma.
Yeah. Karma. I guess you have anything else for NFL?
No, just college basketball. Big news.
Yeah.
Keontae Johnson of Florida, after having, I believe it was like an alley-oop, high-fiving his teammates, and then he collapsed right on the court, so he was taken out. Florida was up 11-3 after Johnson's dunk. You remember, he ended up losing 83-71.
Did they say what happened?
I don't think there's anything yet. So they're not sure. They said, just like some of his other teammates, he tested positive for COVID during the summer. But so maybe that's just a lingering thing, but I don't know. So because it says coronavirus can lead to some viral infections in the heart muscle, so maybe that caught up to him. We don't know. We'll have to see, but I guess prayers out for Florida team and whatnot.
Yeah.
So he was, I believe, like one of the top players in the league coming in. He was SEC Player of the Year last year as a sophomore. So losing a big guy like that, it's really tough and rough.
Never mind that. You want to make sure that he is healthy, so you don't permanently lose him.
Yeah.
Whether for a forced medical retirement or worse.
Yeah.
But so our prayers go out to him, and I think that that's the best way we can end the show.
Yeah.
For this week. So Joe, thank you again. Everyone, stay safe. We will be back the week before Christmas.
We'll figure something out. Schedules like to keep changing.
Well, that's what happens when we're adults.
Yes. we run our own channel. We do what we want.
It's our rules.
All right.
All right.
Wash your hands. Wear your masks. Yada yada yada.
Take care. Bye.